Today, we're going to be learning about sending out statements in Congregation Connect. Our agenda will include going over Appsona and specifically the mail merge tool in Appsona. So Appsona is a data management tool, and we do have a separate training on Appsona, but it's a data management tool. It's also an email or a mail merge tool. And today we will be using Appsona for sending out our statements through Salesforce. If you do not have Appsona already in your tabs at the top of your screen, you can use this pencil icon to add it to your tab bar if it is something that you're going to be using frequently. Now, before we get started in our system, let's just take a quick look at our statement template. So here is my example statement template. And you see that there are fields here that are going to be pulling data from the report that we're going to be using in Salesforce. But this is just what our starting template looks like, and yours will already be uploaded in Salesforce. So let's go into Congregation Connect. Here I am on my home screen in Congregation Connect. Again, I have this Appsona tab at the top of my screen. If you don't already have it there, you can look for it using the waffle. You can also add it to your tabs using the pencil icon, which we've gone over in previous trainings. So I'm going to click on Appsona here. And then once I have Appsona on my screen, I'm going to look for the Transactions tab. So mine is right here. If you do not see your Transactions tab listed up here, then go to this More tab, and it should be in the dropdown on your More tab. So I'm going to click on Transactions, and I'm going to click on Reports here. You see how there's a little drop-down menu there. I'm clicking on Reports under Transactions. So now that I'm in my Reports screen under Transactions, I'm going to select my invoice report for statement. That is the report that I'm going to be using today to generate my statement. When I click on it, I have this little menu that pops up, and I'm going to click Run. And this is running my invoice report for my statement. Now the report has run, and here is my report. Now, in order to merge this into my statements, I'm going to click on this Merge Mail button at the top of my screen here. When I click on that, it brings me to my Edit Run a Merge action screen. This asks me, what would I like to do? I'm going to select Run an Existing Merge Action. Now it says, select the action to run. And if I click on the little drop-down arrow, I'm going to select my statement mail merge. Here, I'm going to click Run at the bottom of my screen to run this action. You notice at the bottom left here, it says 521 records will be processed. That's because I have 521 records on this report. So I'm just waiting for this to run. Here we go. You see at the bottom of this screen here, it now says completed, and it says download results. I'm going to click on download results, and that will download a file for me. It has now imported the data from this report into my statement template. I'm going to click on the little file that has downloaded, and I'm going to select open to show you what that looks like. Now, it may take a moment because it should be a pretty lengthy file. Here we go, and it has downloaded. So here now you see I do have actual information that has been imported into my statement. And this has pulled the data from my report into these statements. Now you may want to just scroll through to double check the formatting of the statements, because sometimes there will be a blank page, or depending on how many pages it takes up. But you might just want to double check the formatting of this, make sure it all appears correct to you. And then you can print these and send these statements by mail. So let's just take a quick look back at our slide deck. And so we just ran our statements. And just know that when you are running statements, depending on which report you are doing, what statement you are merging, you may have run parameters. And if you do have run parameters, then you would just enter that information here. So you would select your run parameters and you would see that on the screen for a monthly statement mail merge, for instance. You can also insert a custom message under the run parameters as well. Also note that reports are dynamic. So remember that the statement will be up to date when you press that run button. And that also means that results can change from today to tomorrow. So just remember that if you've already printed statements out and then you entered a new payment, for instance, then that report would technically not reflect that any payments that you've entered since the actual running and printing of those reports. And let's take a look at running a subset of statements. So we just ran all of our statements for all 526 of those records. But let's say you just wanted to run a few statements, maybe just a handful, like 3 or 4 statements. You didn't want a file of 526 statements. You just wanted a few. So in this case, what we would do is we would run that report the same way that we just did. But when we're on that report screen, we would only select one account name, or if we wanted a few accounts, then we would click the control button and we could select those accounts that we wanted to include in our statements in order to select multiple accounts. And I'll show you that in just one moment. And then when you click the mail merge button, the screen will reflect that only however many records you selected will be processed. Let's just take a quick look at that in the system. So here, I'm going to close my window. Here, I'm on my report that I just ran. So I'll go back to the beginning. I'm going to go to transactions. I'm clicking on reports from the transactions tab in Appsona. Let's say I want to do the exact same statement, but I just want a few accounts included this time. I don't want an entire 526 accounts worth of a file. I'm going to click on my invoice report for statements. I'm going to click run. Now, once this runs, I am not going to immediately go up to the merge mail button. First, I'm going to select those accounts that I want to include. So to do that, I'm going to press my control key on my keyboard. Then I'm going to click the names, account names that I want to include. Let's say I want to include those 4. So I clicked this one, this one, this one, and this one, and you see that they turned a light shade of blue on my screen now. So you see these 4 reports have turned a light shade of blue because I've selected them. Now I'm going to click on the merge mail button after I've selected those reports or those records. And now on this screen, I'm going to do the exact same options up here, but just notice that down here, it says 4 records will be processed now because I only have 4 selected on that previous screen. So now I can say I'm going to run an existing merge action. Yes, that's the statement mail merge. I'm going to click the run button just like we did before a moment ago. And now that was much quicker as well. I can download my results and it will only include 4 records because I only selected 4 records to do the mail merge mail for. So I'm going to open that file and here we go. I have a file that only includes 4 accounts worth of information. There we go. That's my entire file. It's only 9 pages. So there we go. That's how I would run a subset of statements. So let's take a look at our slide deck. So as I mentioned, you can do that. You can just select one account if you wanted to, or you can press the control button on your keyboard and click multiple account names to run statements for multiple accounts. And those accounts will be selected when you click the merge mail button. So another note on running statements, just be aware that from the individual account screen, you do have access to report charts, and that can be found right there on the main account screen if you wanted to just quickly view a report chart on that account. And once you are live, you can have the merge mail button added onto the account screen if you wanted to be able to run an individual account's report directly from their account screen. So just be aware that that's something you can add once you go live. Now we're going to discuss the use of email templates further in the Appsona training. So we're not going over that today. That will be discussed in the Appsona training, but you will need to decide what you would like to do as far as your email statements or how you're sending them out, whether you're sending out your email statements to everyone, or if you're going to have an opt-in, opt-out system, etc. That's just something for you to think about before you get to that Appsona training on email statements. Another note before we wrap up on who should have access to Appsona in Salesforce, just know that every user who's going to need to run these merges should be granted their own access to Appsona in Salesforce. So just remember, anyone who's going to need to run merges should have their own Appsona access in Salesforce. That is everything that we're going to go over today. Thank you for attending this training on statements.